As I read Infinite Tuesday, I remember as a child in Victoria, Texas, I would walk every Sunday and every Wednesday night to the First Church of Christ Scientist, where where we would study in Sunday school, and then we'd go and listen to Mary Baker Eddy, to Science and Health and the correlative passages on Wednesday, and do so. I appreciate you taking me not only back to the start of my journey into metaphysics, but your whole journey there, and how it's impacted your life. So I wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to tell you what it meant to me.
Well, I'm glad to hear that there was traction for it. You know, uh, sometimes late at night, 3 in the morning, sitting by a fire in the yard, wondering how the hell I got here and what am I doing and so forth. It's good to be able to reach out to some people who know, who can give me answers.
Yeah.
And early on, I started searching for a Christian Science teacher, and I discovered, as I say in the book, and through the help of my mother, Paul Stark Seeley, who
Yep.
became my Christian Science teacher.
Wow. He was in California, right? You found Northern California?
He was in Portland, Oregon,
In Portland. Yeah, that is northern California.
to say the least. Yeah, and he was he was an extraordinary. I've told you all this book, but you know, he had a degree in philosophy from Princeton.
Wow.
He had a degree in business from Harvard, and he had his JD. He was a powerhouse as a intellectual reposit. And
Yeah.
what he did with that ability to think and read Eddie's works was to bring clarity.
Yeah.
So he could talk to me about it and say, "This is how this works." Never quite as simple as, you know, screw the top back on the toothpaste. But it began to unpack Christian Science in a way for me that I could actually use it and that I could actually depend on it. Paul died in, I don't know, I think the late 2000s. Uh, and since then, I have started working as a practitioner with someone as a practitioner,
Nice.
with a person who is a practitioner. I started working with him. His name is David Holy. This is ironic. His last name is Holy, Hohle.
Wow.
What can I say?
Yeah.
Gifts
The
from the
universe has a sense of humor and a sense of
universe.
lyracy.
It got dark, and I called him. Um, some people had said, "Give this guy a shout." And I don't know what was wrong with me at the time, but it seemed dire.
Yeah.
And I called him up, and he said, "I'm on it." And I would say it was anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, it was gone. And that began my regimen with him as a Christian Science practitioner.
Hmm.
And that's what I understood to be Christian Science practiced and Christian Science applied.
Yep.
And it lifted whatever disease I was under at that moment, vanished. So I thought, well, I'm going to stay with this guy. And he's a very easygoing and very friendly sort. I'm happy to give you all his numbers, and he's happy for me too. He's a teacher. He's a class teacher. And if you wanted to trace down some more arcane stuff with him about metaphysics, I highly encourage it. He's as clear as I've seen, and the kind of work that he's doing is boop,
Yep.
and it all goes away. So that's what
It's
I always.
amazing. It's amazing to me, just Mary Baker Eddy's story. I mean,
Oh,
a divorced mother out in the plains of freaking Kansas
how
with
improbable.
nothing and 50 years old. And then before she died, I mean, nothing. She has nothing. And before she dies, she's founded one of the great religions of the world, plus one of the great newspapers of the world,
Excellent. Yes.
and teachers. I come at through one of her students, Emma Curtis Hopkins,
Uh-huh.
then goes out to Ernest Holmes through Science of Mind. So that's my metaphysical route. Course in Miracles. That
We all
place where
wander
I
those
land.
paths. I know what you mean. Go out there.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What was that you had for dessert? Is that any good? But I have to tell you, in my experience, the closer I stick to Mary Baker Eddy and her writings and her advice, such as it is, she doesn't really give advice, but that's the highest teaching that I know of on earth.
It's fine, isn't it? Some brilliant. I mean, there is stuff in her that is just incredible. Do you know anyone that's doing her story, Michael, who is trying to bring her story? I've seen some documentaries and some.
Well, the answer to your question is yes, Dennis, I do, and everybody is. I mean, I don't talk to anybody who's not a filmmaker that doesn't want to make her story. I took a swing at it while what was his name? He was a silent film director and very, very famous. And he wanted to make her story. And he contacted me and my mother uh, to see if we were interested in supporting that. And I was. Um, and my mother, way, way too untrained to know whether she was getting in the movie business or not. And I, at some point I said, well, yeah, you are, but you'll have a whole different set of business and admin decisions, but they've all been made for us. And all we have to do is just adhere and listen and understand the spiritual wisdom, not the inhuman intellect,
Yeah.
but the spiritual wisdom that's being exercised. And then what happens to other people, it happens to me, happens to other people. They go into into the backyard and they come back well. So I fully support her teachings and her outreach and everything, but I invariably come back to them. Invariably. I mean, it's just nothing in there has quite the gravitas as there is no life, truth, or intelligence in matter. Whoa, okay, back up. Could you do that
Yep.
again? And let me hear it 1,000 times, which is probably about where I am now.
Yeah.
I'm getting a signal off stage. We're not done yet? Okay, good. Yeah, we got a few more minutes. Good. Well, I'm so glad that you shared with me your interest in science. One of the things that Seeley taught me, and I'll pass on to you in good nature, was get to the science of it and stick with the science of it. It's not a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a club. It's not a place that we all get together and make each other feel good because we all think the same thing.
Right.
And when I'm with other people who are thinking like I am, it's the highest I can get. I smoke grass all the time, and nothing compares to metaphysics. It's just.
But I love the word you used, applied.
Yeah.
Because it's applied. It's not a passive. It's not a willing, just receptive. It's an applied science.
It is indeed. And once the application gets clear to you and me, and we're studying the books from her point of view, it just comes to light. And you say, oh, of course. but the mortals, we're Luddites. Yep. We don't know.
No.
What? You mean God's here, but I don't see him.
Yeah.
What's going on with all that? And so, but it solves the problems if you take the problems to it.